So we have to express the longer length in terms of expression, and that would be 3 out of 5. Ms. Anam, did you get the same answer? Okay, quickly, question number 10. If the piece of wood in question 9 is 80 cm long, what's the length of the shorter? So 80 is the total length. The shorter, we know it is 2 out of 5. So 2 out of 5 into 80, that gives me 32. Excellent. Question 9 done. Question 10 done. Question 11. A gas pipe is 7 km long. A valve is positioned in such a way that it divides the length of. Yes, please go ahead. Quickly, quickly. You have just 2 minutes to solve question number 11. I need the answer in 2 minutes, please. You use the concepts of ratios that we have used this far. Ms. Anam, how do we attempt it? 7 multiplied by 4, 4 over 7 multiplied by 7. That would give you the distance from the one end. What about the other end? So if this is the pipe and let's say the whole pipe is 7 km long, you are dividing it into two parts, 4:3. So one part you said right, if here is valve, it would be 4 out of 7 into 7, which is 4 km from one end. And obviously, if it is 4 km from this end, from the other end, it would be 3 km. From this end, it is 3 km. From this end over here, it is 4 km. Understood? All right. Quickly, question number 12. You tell me. We multiply with the total. So what's the total over here? 9. Not the total of ratios, the total of the value that is being divided. What's the value that's being divided? Anyone? What's the value that's being divided? Arman? Miss Aisha? What's the value that we're dividing in this question? The quantity that's being divided in this question. In all the questions of ratio, we are distributing some quantity, some given value in some ratio. So in the last one, we had total 7 km, which we were distributing in the ratio of 4:3. What's the thing that we are distributing in this question number 12? In the question before it, so in the question before it, it was 80 cm which was being distributed. So what's the quantity that's being distributed over here in question 12? Mr. Arman? No answer. Achha ji. So the quantity that is being distributed is the sum of total angles. If I have a quadrilateral, so the angles that are there in the quadrilateral, the interior sum is 360. And that sum of 360, it would now be distributed in this ratio of 1:2:3:3. So 360 into 1 out of 9, 360 into 2 out of 9, and 360 into 3 out of 9. It would be 40 it would be 80, it would be 120. And it would be one more 120 because there are four angles. So 40 ratio 80 ratio 120 ratio 120. All right. The angles triangle in the ratio of 3 ratio 5 ratio 4. Quickly do this one. Question number 13. Miss Anam, quickly solve question number 13 and send me your answers in the chat box. Of what? 3 over 12 of what? What's that angle? What's the value that I'm distributing in this ratio? All right. All right, Miss Noor. It would be 180. 180 is the sum of angles in a triangle, and the sum of the angle would then be distributed in the ratio of 3 ratio 5 ratio 4. So it would be 180 into 3 out of 12, 180 into 5 out of 12, and 180 into 4 out of 12. Question number 13. Please quickly solve it. 180 into 3 out of 12. So it would be 180 into 3 out of 12. This one would be 45. Then 180 into 5 out of 12. This one would be 75. And then 180 into 4 out of 12. This one would be 60 degrees. Anybody who's confused about the solution to question number 13? No confusions. All right, so if you have all understood whatever we have discussed till question number 13, please go ahead and solve question number 14. I will write down the values of their ages. So their ratios would be 24 ratio 28 ratio 32. I can in fact simplify this ratio. So if I divide all the values with, can I? At least 2. I'll get 12 ratio 14 ratio 16. Again, I can divide it with 2. So initially I could have divided with 4. This would become 2 6 are 12, 2 7s are 14, 2 8s are 16. So this is the ratio in which this wealth it would be distributed. You could have directly worked with this ratio as well, but bigger numbers are relatively difficult to handle. So 6, 7, and 8, this is a relatively easier to handle ratio. Sum of ratios 6 plus 7 plus 8, 21. So sum of ratios is 21. The first person he would get 6 out of 21. The second person he would get 21. The second person would get 7 out of 21. The third person would get 8 out of 21. But what amount would they get this 8 out of 21? 1.4 million. So 1.4 into 6 out of 21, 1.4 into 7 out of 21, and 1.4 into 8 out of 21. Mr. Arman, do you understand now? Quickly your answers, please. Ms. Noor, do you understand what questions we are solving and how we are solving these questions? Hmm. So we are calculating ratios of different numbers. What 1.4 to nearest dollar amount. So 0.4 million would be how much? 0.4 million would be 400,000. $400,000. Then 7 out of 21 into 1.4, this would be $466,667. And 8 out of 21 into 1.4, this would be 533,333. Anybody who's getting different answers? Mr. Arman, Miss Anam. So this person, he had left behind some wealth, $1.4 million, and this wealth was to be distributed among his children in the ratio of their ages. So first we calculated the ratio of their ages. I mean, just simply put down the ages in the ratio form. Then we simplified that to a smaller number. Turns out it is 6 ratio 7 ratio 8. And then the sum of the ratio 6 plus 7 plus 8, 21. So the share of first person is 6 out of 21, second person is 7 out of 21, third person is 8 out of 21. And then their share multiplied by total wealth for each of them. This is the amount that each one of them would get. If you people could quickly solve question number 15 now. Everybody has done and noted the solution to question number 14. Miss Anam, what's the answer to question number 15? Quickly. What's the amount that we are going to distribute in question number 15? 8,000. And what's in what ratio does it say that we have to distribute it? Quickly, Miss Anam, in what ratio do we have to distribute it? What are their investments? So right, 20,000 ratio. What's the investment of second person? Quickly. 35,000 and then 25,000. If I want to reduce it to a simpler number, I can divide it with 5,000. So the first one, it will become 4 ratio 7 ratio 5, right? So why didn't we do it? Sorry, what else do you get? Where did I get 4, 7 and 5 from? This is the amount of ratio that is given. These numbers are too big. You can use these number for ratios as well. But if you can simplify them to a smaller number, how do I simplify a number? I divide all of them with the same number. So I divided all of them with 5,000 because all of them are divisible by 5,000. So 1,000 cancels 3 zeros and all of them 5 ones are 5, 5 fours are 20, ones are 5, 7s are 35, 5 ones are 5, 5 fives are 25. So I get 4 ratio 7 ratio 5. And what's the sum of the ratios? 4 plus 7 plus 5, that is 16. So the share of the first person, it would be 4 out of 16. The share of the second person, it would be 7 out of 16. And the share of the third person, it would be 5 out of 16. And what's the amount that has to be distributed? 8,000. So I multiply each person's share with 8,000. So 8,000 divided by, I mean, for the first person, his final answer it would become, his final answer would become 2,000. For the second person, it would become 3,500. And for the last person, it would become 2,500. I fail to understand what's difficult in these questions. This is as simple as math can be. And we have been practicing these questions for the past few classes. Why is it that every time we have to just act as if this is the first time we are seeing such questions? Okay, here's the next exercise. The same concept of ratios, we'll be solving questions of slightly different kind from the same topic of ratios. A teacher shares sweets among 8 students so that they get 6 each. How many sweets would there have been if there had been 12 students? Anybody? These aren't in fact really ratio questions, they are straight away division multiplication questions. No, initially if there are 8 students, each gets 6. If there are 8 students, each of them gets 6. How much would each of them get if there were 12 students? So sorry, that's not mentioned in the question. From the information given in the question. So if the chocolates are being distributed among 8 and each gets 6, so total number of chocolates is 8 into 6, which is 48. And now these 48 are to be divided in 12 students. So 48 over 12, 4. Each one of them would get 4 sweets. Understood? Mr. Arman, if you could please tell me how we solve question number 2. Sir, Acha ji, did you all understand question number 1? Miss Noor, did you understand question number 1? Miss Noor, are you there? Miss Anam, are you there? How did we solve question number 1? Did you understand it? Why didn't you ask then when I asked for a few times? I mean, why do I have to specifically name every person to ask it? Why don't you simply tell yourself if you don't understand anything? Read out question number 1, please. Read out question number 1. Just pause. Just pause. Pause. If each student is getting 6 and there are 8 children, how many sweets are there in total? If each person gets 6 sweets and there are 8 people, how many sweets are there? 2. How? So the first person gets 8, the second person gets, sorry, the first person gets 6, the second person gets 6, third person gets 6, fourth person gets 6. Fifth person gets 6, seventh person gets 6, eighth person gets 6. How many are they in total? Please don't add them all up separately. This is simply 8 multiplied by 6, right? So how many are there suites in total? 48. So if there are 48 suites and now they have to be divided among 12 students, how would I find that out? 48 divided by 12. What is the answer? That is how we solved question number 1. Okay. Question number 2. The table below represents the relationship between the speed and time taken for a train to travel between two stations. So if there are two stations, let's say over here I have station A and over here I have station B. Right now I don't know how far away these two stations are. First thing it tells me is if it travels at 60 kilometers per hour, if it travels at 60 kilometers per hour, how much time does it take to reach station 2? Sir Arman, how much time does it take to reach from one station to the other? How much time does it take? 2 hours. It takes 2 hours. Time is given. So now I can write the formula speed is equal to distance over time, right? So that tells me how much is the speed? Speed is 60. How much is the time taken? 2. Sorry, distance isn't given. Just a second. Just a second. Sorry. Speed is 60. Distance is unknown divided by time 2. So that would tell me how much is the distance, Miss Anam? Miss Anam, how much is the distance? Oh, 60 divided by 2. Wouldn't you multiply 60 with 2? Would we divide or multiply? First of all, tell me that. 2 is multiplying on one side of the equation. If I take it to the other side of the equation, should I multiply it or divide it? 60 into 2 is what? 120. So the distance between the two stations is how much? 120. Miss Aisha? I would again do speed is equal to distance over time. So how much is the distance? Distance is still 120. The time it takes is 3 hours. So the speed now is 40 kilometers per hour. Isn't that how we calculate speed? Distance over time. So now the speed is how much? 40 kilometers per hour. Miss Anam and Sir Arman, quickly the speed for this next slot when it takes 4 hours to reach. Sir Arman, if it takes 4 hours to reach, how much would be the speed? 20. How do we calculate speed? Distance over time. How much is the distance between the two stations? Sir Arman, how much is the distance between the two stations? Arman, how much is the distance between the two stations? 120 kilometers. How much time does it take? 120 divided by 4, so it would be 30 kilometers per hour. So over here I would have 30. All right, all right. So in the next one, now we have to calculate, in this next slot, now we have to calculate the time. Distance between the two stations stays the same. The only thing that varies is either speed or time. If I go faster, it would take me less time. If I go slower, it would take me more time. Understood, Miss Anam? Okay, so now I have got speed is equal to distance over time. I'll see distance I've already calculated in part 1. I mean before solving any part, I mean from the information given in part 1, I calculated that the distance is 120 kilometers. So now in this next, what am I given? I'm given the speed. And what do I have to calculate? Time. So again, using this speed is equal to distance over time, if I rearrange it, it would become time is equal to distance over speed. Time is equal to distance over speed, right? Miss Anam, how much is the distance? 120. And how much is the speed in the next slot? 120. So how much would be the time taken? 1 hour. All right. So the time over here, it would be 1 hour. What about when it goes with the speed of 90 kilometers per hour? So distance stays the same, 120. The speed has now become how much? 90. So what would be the answer now? The answer would be 4 over 3. Distance is how much? 120. Speed is how much? 90. 120 over 90 is 4 over 3, which is 1.333. So I write either 4 over 3 or 1 whole 1 by 3. Miss Aisha, quickly, when it takes 50, when it travels at a speed of 50, how much time does it take? 120 divided by 50, so it would take 2.4. Good. So Arman, if it travels at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour, how much time does it take? Sir Arman, if it so how much would that be? 12. All right. Any confusion? Any three or any one of you have in this question? Seemingly none. All right. Shall I erase the solution to this, or are you still noting it down? I'll erase it. All right. Acha ji, question number 3. Question number 3. If 6 people can dig a trench in 8 hours, how long would it take 4 people? Acha ji, 6 people do a work in 8 hours. If one person does the work for 8 hours, how many hours it is? 8. Then another person does it for 8 hours. How much it is? 16. Then another person, then another person, then. So 6 such people, they have done 8 hours work. So what's the total number of hours that have been worked? 6 into 8. This is total number of hours worked, 48. Understood? Miss Anam, did you understand this first thing? And now this 48 hours, this is to be done by 4 people. This 48-hour work, instead of being done by 6 people, we are dividing this whole work, the same amount of work, in 4 people. So 48 divided by 4, this will be equal to 12 hours. Understood? Sir Arman, if you could now reassess your answers to part 2 and 3. So for part 2, what we will do, we'll say it's the same 48 hours of total work that has to be done, but now it's being done by 12 people. So it would become 48 by 12, which would be 4 hours. And in part 3, it's the same work that is being done, but by just one person, so 48 over 1, which would be just 48 hours. Okay, now we reverse the thing. Okay, have you all noted everything till part 3? Okay, I'm moving to the next thing now. Next thing. For next part, it says, now it is not the number of people that we are changing. We are calculating how many people. Okay, so previously we knew the number of people that was being changed. Now what we know is the number of hours in which we have to finish the job. Okay, so again, what would we do? What would we do? What would we do when there were 4 people? They took 8 hours. So again, the total work done is 6 into 8, which is 48 hours. Now it is to be done in 3 hours. So if this work is to be done in 3 hours, what would I do? 48 divided by 3. What is 48 divided by 3? So I would need 16 people. 16 people, each working for 3 hours, I'd get the same 48-hour job done. Understood? Nisanam, did you understand this part B? What would be the answer for part 2? Nisanam and Sir Arman. 16 hours and 1 hour. 3 hours we have already done. So for part 2, the answer would be 3. Now we would need 3 people, each of whom work for 16 hours. So 16 plus 16 plus 16, we'd get the same 48 hours of job done. And if we want to get the job done in 1 hour, we'll have to employ 48 people, each doing the job for 1 hour. So we'll get the same 48-hour job done. Understood? Okay. Quickly, if you could solve question 4. Question 4 will be solved the same way as question 3. So the first thing we will do for question 4 is, first of all, we will calculate the total number of chairs there is. There are 35 rows. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, such 35 such rows, and each row has 18 chairs. So it means the total number of chairs is 18 into 35. How much is that, Sir Arman? There are total 630 chairs. 630 chairs. If these 630 chairs, they are to be arranged with each row having 21 chairs, so I would simply divide 630 over 21. So 630 divided by 21, I'd get 30 rows. And if I want to arrange these 630 chairs in 15 rows, I would do 630 divided by 15. I would divide them in 15 rows. I would have 630 by 15, which would be 42. 42 chairs in 15 rows, each chair having 42 chairs. Nisanam, understood? Okay. Question number 5 quickly. अच्छा जी, for question number 5, what we would do, a train is traveling at the speed of 100 kilometers per hour for 4 hours. So accident first we'll calculate the total distance it covers. 100 into 4 is 400 kilometers it covers. And if it were to cover the same 400 kilometers at 60 kilometers per hour, so 400 divided by 60, that gives me 20 by 3 or 6.67. 6.67. 6.67 what? 6.67 hours. All right. Question number 6 quickly, please. All right. So for question number 6, we have a sugar factory which packs 24 cardboard boxes with 15 bags of sugar in each. So total bags of sugar are 24 into 15, which is 24 times 15, which is 360 bags of sugar. If he had boxes which held 18 bags of sugar, so these 360 divided by 18, so it would now be 20. So previously, therefore, there were 24 boxes. Now there are 20 boxes. So there are 4 boxes fewer. 4 boxes or 4 fewer boxes. 4 boxes less. The answer wouldn't be 20 boxes, it would be 4 boxes because it asks for how many fewer boxes would be made. Okay, quickly the last question for today's class. So a swimming pool is filled in 30 hours by 2 pumps. So 30 into 2, this is 60. For 60 hours, a pump has to run. 60 pump hours. 60 pump hours and 60 pump hours. Now we have, since we have got 5 pumps, 60 by 5, it would be 12 hours. Alrighty, this would be it for today's class. I'll be sending you homework shortly and you can solve that and send me back. See you people in the next class. Assalamu alaikum.